one of the other performers has lyrics in the song that he sang about how hard it is being country in this country or something along those lines. But one
Yeah.
of the lines has to do with him being able to tell his daughter that boys are not girls. And that apparently got a big cheer. It's transphobia, right? It's
Yes, it
transphobia
is.
in
Of
the
course it
lyrics
is.
of a country song about, you know, mowing his grass and drinking his beer and feeding his dog and wearing his boots, and how hard that is these days in this country. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's easier than ever, I would say.
Welcome to another episode of the Bloomburg Democrat. I am Sally Taylor. This is my discerning younger brother, John Daniels, and we are back to talk about more news of the day. And today I thought we might, John, talk about politics and sports because we've been seeing a lot of that lately. We recently in the US had our big Super Bowl uh, game,
Yeah.
which is the big football game of the season. And then, of course, the Olympics are going on in Italy right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
And some of our athletes there are being asked questions by the press, as is normal and to be
Of course.
expected.
Yeah.
But people want to know about what's going on in the United States and how do they feel about it?
No, it's atypical. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're giving those answers that show the world that they know that it's atypical and that
Yeah.
they have concerns about it.
Hmm.
But of course, then they get a lot of backlash
Of
for what
course.
they say or don't say, or even
Yeah.
when they couch it in very cautious terms, there's always going to be people that are not happy about it.
Well, this is always the case with like representation, right?
Right.
Whether it's elected officials who are supposed to represent the people who voted for them, or sports teams that are representing their home state, their hometown, their home country, or whatever. Yeah, it seems pretty ordinary, I guess, that people kind of they want to feel represented, and when they feel like they're not being represented, then they feel like they're being misrepresented.
So why do you think that we hold athletes to standards of representing the United States in this case that we
Mhm.
don't hold our politicians to?
Mm, well, uh, why? I
Because
thought
I
it was
mean,
going to be a different
truly,
question. That's
are you
a
going to be, yeah, are you
interesting
going to be
question.
upset about a young figure skater who has something, negative to say about what they see happening in our nation,
Yeah,
as
no, not
opposed
really.
to
I
the
mean,
things that our actual representatives say?
right, right. They can sway public opinion, I think, because people tend to look up to them, but they don't dictate um,
Policy.
policy.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think there's a whole lot of this kind of a thing going on in the world in general. Um, it reminds me a little bit of like idols, as they call them here in Japan or in Korea, or K-pop idols.
Right.
They just kind of they sing and dance, but they're supposed to represent like the values of the country, right?
Hmm.
That's part of it. And so when they stray from that idealization, then people who invest themselves into that identity feel slighted when people turn out to be human. And This is just, I think it's a matter of people not holding themselves to standards that they hold others to, basically.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I agree it has a lot to do with identity.
Yeah.
Um, I because I mean truly the vitriol and the garbage that comes
Yeah.
out of the mouth of our leadership is nothing compared to the very soft statements that have been made by some athletes at the Olympics. And
Yeah.
yet we've had at least one young woman that had to delete all of her social media because she was getting threats from, of course, American citizens, right?
Yeah,
Americans who
sure.
were
Of
unhappy with what
course.
she had to say.
Right.
And so yeah, it's just crazy to me. Also, we had this issue at the NFL. People have been screaming about it for months that they were mad that Bad Bunny was going to be doing the halftime show, and how
Yeah.
un-American was that he was going to be singing everything in Spanish,
Uh-huh.
and that of course a lot of people claiming he's not even an American. Not that we haven't had a lot of other foreign entertainers entertain at halftime show, because we have, but
Sure.
that's not even the point. He was Latino.
Yeah.
He was Puerto Rican, which is part of the United States. He is an
Yeah.
American citizen.
Yeah.
And
Well, we keep inviting them to join the union, but they keep saying no. I wonder
they keep
why.
saying, I wonder why. I don't blame them either.
And then we have celebrities that move to Puerto Rico for tax breaks
Yeah,
because
right, right.
since they're not a state, they don't pay the same.
Same taxes, exactly.
Ay, ay, ay.
It really is kind of nuts though. And I do give full credit to the NFL, number one, for sticking to their guns with
Mhm.
who they hired to do the halftime show, because they could have seen all of the backlash and the vitriol
Yeah,
and changed their mind and said, thank you, but sorry, we're going to go with somebody else. And they didn't
yeah,
do that. But I
mhm.
also know that they kept Bad Bunny as the halftime entertainment because he has a huge following,
Oh yes,
far
of course it
larger
does.
than the NFL itself has,
Oh
right?
really? I didn't
Far
know
more than
that.
the Super Bowl ever gets on its own. And so
Yeah.
it was the most watched Super Bowl halftime show in history,
Mhm.
and far outstripped the All American halftime show that was put on
Oh,
by TPUSA
yeah,
by
Kid Rock.
millions and millions. Yes, Kid Rock.
Yeah. Oh man.
Um,
I saw a picture of him the other day. I didn't watch any of the Kid Rock stuff, but like Google News was exploding with like pre-recorded Kid Rock halftime show. Nobody watches it, just this kind of stuff. And so I didn't even read any of the articles, but the sheer number of headlines made me realize that okay, nobody really enjoyed the Kid Rock, Chris Rock, different person there.
yeah.
The Kid Rock halftime show, and yeah, it seems like it was he apparently lip synced it or something. One
That's
headline.
what I hear. He lip synced it. And here's the other thing that's really interesting. So, of course, the Trump administration is having all of these problems around the Epstein files, and concerns that Trump is in there so many thousands of times,
Mhm.
and trying to distance himself from that. But then, now granted, the president himself did not do this, but he's very good friends with Kid Rock, right? He's had him in the Oval
Right,
Office
right, right,
many,
right.
many times,
Yeah,
right?
I've
Because he
seen that.
knows
Yeah,
he's a staunch supporter.
and that was one of the
Kid
pictures that I
Rock,
saw. Yeah.
yeah, Kid Rock has lyrics that he became famous from about pursuing underage girls, and that they call it statutory, but he calls it mandatory, right?
Birds of a feather.
And he's got more than one song about sexualizing underage girls, more than one. It's not
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah. So why wouldn't they distance themselves from somebody who has that historical context to their art form,
Right. Well, Epstein is.
instead of promote them as being for family values? And that's why they're putting him on this other show where
Well, the
they're
Republicans
rejecting.
have not really been about family values for a long time. They love to scream, "Think of the kids," because then they can just do whatever they want to. People will bend over backwards to think of the kids, but they're not thinking of kids. They're thinking of themselves, and this is what it's always been. And
Right. And one of the other performers for that same show, and I granted I have not watched it, I refuse to watch it, but I read headlines. One of
it
the
might
other
be funny.
performers, yeah, well, it was Jon Stewart that I watched that I first
Oh,
saw. That
I
another
wanted
one
to
of the
watch that.
performers, Lee Bryce, you need to watch it. It's a good one. One of the other performers has lyrics in the song that he sang about how hard it is being country in this country or something along those lines. But one
Yeah.
of the lines has to do with him being able to tell his daughter that boys are not girls. And that apparently got a big cheer. It's transphobia, right? It's
Yes. Well,
transphobia
yes,
in
of
the
course it is.
lyrics of a country song about, you know, mowing his grass and drinking his beer and feeding his dog and wearing his boots, and
Mhm.
how hard that is these days in this country. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's easier than ever, I would say.
You think?
Oh man.
So anyway, I just the fact that the lyrics of songs have transphobia in it, and of course that's part of what people didn't like about Bad Bunny. Not only the fact that he's Latino and speaks Spanish fluently as his first language, but that he is very supportive of the LGBTQ community. He may be bisexual himself. I don't know. I don't care. He's a lovely man,
Yeah.
singing about love and community and coming together, and love
Yeah.
wins over hate kind of thing.
Mm,
Um,
nice.
so it was a
I
good
don't really
halftime
know
show.
anything about him at all myself. I've never heard any of his songs. All I know is that people didn't want him to sing at the Super Bowl, which makes me think he should sing at the Super Bowl.
He
And
probably should. Well, at one time you were somewhat fluent in Spanish, weren't you, John?
yes, yes, and I like to still think that I am, although
Yeah,
I've not practiced in a very long time, but I
yeah.
still
I was
run through
able to
things in my head.
Yeah, I was able to translate parts of it for my husband as it was going by, but it was pretty quick. And
Oh yeah,
I'm better at reading and understanding than certainly at speaking.
yeah,
Speaking is the hardest thing to do.
yeah,
But it was, you know, it was a really excellent show. He's a good performer. And again, most watched uh,
yeah,
halftime show in history.
yeah.
So certainly the folks who were angry about it did not really succeed in, drawing away
Well, controversy
large numbers of people.
always really amplifies the
Yeah,
number of people who want to watch, right? I mean,
yeah, I agree.
you want to see
No such thing as
what's
bad
wrong with it.
press.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to see what's wrong with it.
Well, but on the converse side, like I refused to even in recording watch other than the clips that were shown by comedians and that sort of thing. Um, the other halftime show, uh, because I just don't want to support the hatred that actually brought it into being.
Yeah.
Because for me, it seemed all along that it was more about racism, it was more about
Yeah.
hatred and xenophobia
Well,
and
it
all
really
of that.
is the FIFA Peace Prize of the Super Bowl halftime shows.
Well, and that's another example of politics interfere or well, sports and politics being,
Yeah,
interacting in ways that they never were meant to. The fact that
yeah.
FIFA even gave a peace prize to
Well, so
appease
see
a
this,
toddler.
yes, yes. So sports is one of these things that tends to bridge gaps. And that's why it becomes so political, I think, is because you have people on all sides of the political spectrum who are interested in watching, and
Right.
this is a chance to either call people out or make a stance known or and whether you're supporting or you're not supporting them, like this is when you can make yourself known for what you believe and who you are, and
Do you
even
think it changes
this
anyone's
identity.
minds?
Well, right?
Do you think it changes anyone's minds?
Absolutely not.
I agree. It's like I refer this back to because we talk about sports is a form of entertainment, and entertainment has also a long history of political unease and involvement.
Yeah.
I remember when the Dixie Chicks, now just known as the Chicks, was
Oh,
female.
are they just known as the
Yeah,
chicks now?
they're just known as the Chicks, and they have
Okay.
come back together because they did sort of part ways for a little while.
Yeah.
But back when uh, Bush Jr. was in
Uh-huh.
office, they at a foreign concert said something disparaging about Bush. I can't remember exactly what they said, but they voiced their displeasure in what he was doing. And because so much of their audience was, Republican,
Mm-hmm.
they essentially crashed their careers with that statement,
Yeah.
right? And
Well,
so even
I
though I
actually started
agree with,
listening to the Dixie Chicks around that time. And that's when I
yeah,
started to listen to them. And I thought, oh, they're actually pretty good.
they're amazing
So,
musicians.
yeah.
Yes, they really are.
So they should never have broken up. And I don't know, rename yourself
Yeah.
if you
Well,
want to, because maybe you want to separate yourself from Dixie. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think they started to see that there was still racism attached to that term, and they
right,
had reasons for finally giving that up.
right.
But I think the point that I wanted to make about all of that is, while I thought I still think they're amazing artists,
Mm-hmm.
and I agreed with their political stance. You've got to be prepared that if your audience does not see the world the same way you do,
Yeah,
if you do go in ahead and use your free speech to voice your opinion, you might end up out of a job
yeah.
because people do respond, you know,
Yeah, they probably should have
strongly.
gone pop first and then said something, I guess. But yeah, being a
Ugh,
country singer and being
liberally
not,
minded. Yeah.
yes, being not
Although,
conservative is difficult.
right, there are others that I know that they ride that line really well. They
Yeah.
may have more liberal viewpoints,
Hmm.
but they voice it in a way that they don't lose the people that support them. Dolly
Well,
Parton's a good example of that.
basically, I think if you just say you're libertarian or independent,
Yeah.
then you just kind of get a pass. And I was thinking, I think it was last night, I was thinking, like, I guess if I were to consider myself in the scope of American politics, I would just consider myself to be independent these days
Yeah.
because I don't really feel strongly for any party.
Right.
And I don't need to choose someone who is from a certain party simply because they're from that party, right? I would
Right.
prefer
Well,
to
because your
choose a person.
identity's not wrapped up in it.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I'm thinking we need to get rid of all parties, make everyone independent. And then, right, if there's no political affiliation and everybody is just, we might have websites where you list like the different candidates and then the different like topics and then how they lean on that, right?
I don't
Present.
think it would last. Do you know
It may not
why?
last.
Because people are still going to categorize
Survival.
themselves no matter what.
Yeah.
And they'll call themselves some new name.
But if everybody calls themselves independent and you just can't say, come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you in that I've long considered myself independent as well and still do. Even though we call this the Bloomburg Democrat, we do that in honor of our father who had the blog, the Bloomburg
Right.
Democrat, right? And so, and I do more closely align with Democrats as far as their values and what they work towards and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
However, I am as mad at corporate Democrats as I am at any
Yeah.
Republican,
Yeah.
right? For getting
Yeah.
us to where we currently are.
Yeah.
And so yes, and I have voted across party lines my whole life.
Mhm.
Uh, that said, how do you ever look another Republican in the eye and say, yeah, you promote my values at this stage? I mean, just the collapse to the current, again, toddler in chief that we've got, who's really, really dismantling the Constitution at an alarming rate. I mean, I think that the Republican Party should just disappear altogether because I don't know if you can save it. And the people who do identify with it so strongly that they're willing to watch the nation crumble in
Yeah.
support of that tribe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. It's,
So,
let's everybody be independent. Right? Because yes, I mean if I have to choose between a Democrat and a Republican, I think actually my voting record is that I don't choose. I just don't vote for either of them. And
which is a choice, John.
yes, it is. It is a choice. And I think it's a good one because I would rather just vote for no one than people who don't represent me, right? So
But
get
is there
somebody that
anybody who's
represents
ever
me
going to
well.
represent everything you
No,
want?
you don't have to do everything, but you got to do enough of it that I'm like, okay, I
Right.
like this guy, Bernie Sanders. I'll vote for him.
Yeah,
And I voted for him.
I have as well.
Yep.
I have as well. Uh,
That's
Progressives
all you
in
got to do.
general, yeah. In general, people who are more progressive are going to get my vote in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
And that's not always a Democrat. Democrats are what we used to call Republicans.
Yeah.
The vast majority of Democrats are what we used to call Republicans.
Yeah. And Republicans
And
have
the whole nation has moved
flipped
right.
over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, but I agree with you that it has a lot to do with identity, and that's why sports inevitably gets, wrapped up in politics.
Yeah.
It Because people identify with politics and they identify with sports, and
Yeah.
they live vicariously through our athletes.
Yeah. And those rivalries and, I
Yeah,
mean, it's it's the great tribalizer.
yeah, yes, because teams, rooting for your
Yeah.
team is a form of tribalism.
Yeah.
And when your team members don't represent you in all the ways you want them to, including your political beliefs,
Hmm.
you often see people turn on them because of that,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is why a young woman gets death threats after saying she's not happy what's happening in the United States.
Yeah.
Are human beings ever going to rise out of this more primitive behavior?
Only when we start valuing education above all else, I think, because it all
I
comes
think
down to
that's a big
education.
part of it. When do we start valuing humanity above all else?
Well, okay, so yes, yes. I mean, it's basically saying the same thing. Education means learning that everyone is equally valuable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
agree.
we have to educate people to see things as they really are. Like we still have these weird notions that some people are different from us, but we're all just the same people. Some of us have more and less melanin, right? Or melatonin. What's the right
Melanin.
melanin, right? Melanin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Melatonin's the sleep
Melatonin helps you get
chemical.
sleepy. Yeah.
Yes, yes. They're so similar.
They are. They are.
But yes, so people have more or less melanin or, you know, adaptations for where they live, but we're all just same people, right? I mean, the difference between people is like the difference between dogs,
Right.
and they're all dogs. We're all people. So let's just stop pretending like it's anything else. And education is one of those things. Like if you're lacking in education, you don't accept these things, and you think that you're better than others because at church people say you're exceptional, or at this other place you go to, they say that we're different. And so we have to break out of the tribalism that we keep putting ourselves into. And so will we ever do it? If we're educated, I think we will. And if we're not, we won't.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that.
Can education build empathy?
I think it can. Yeah. Because if you have educated parents, they will understand that children need to be empathetic and they will try to teach their children empathy. And I mean, it's all about education, I think.
Yeah.
People who are, and it's not like you have to know a specific thing or a specific skill. You just have to be willing to learn, right? This is what education is. It's willingness to learn. It's willingness to take your ideas that you had as a child and put them aside and learn the real way, right, that things are. And that's what education is all about. It's all about becoming an adult and progressing through childhood, right? It's about learning new things, learning the way things really are, and understanding the world. And so I think that yes, education is everything, and it's just we have it's a state of mind, perhaps more than it is a curriculum.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we can educate people, I think we'll be okay. And if we
Well,
can't,
you know me,
then we
John.
won't.
I'm a teacher, so of course I agree with you that it's a big component. Uh, I think culture, though, has a lot to do with it. I think, mm, again, human nature and overcoming our more base human compulsions
Well,
is
yes,
important.
yes. I think this is also a part of education, learning what it is to be a human, and learning how to be better than our most animal version of us, right?
Yeah.
Because the people we are now is not so very different from the people we were 12,000 years ago at the end of the Ice Age. Like we're basically the same people with similar levels of organizational skills and things. So like, we've learned some tricks along the way, like writing and arithmetic, but we're still basically the same people struggling with the same things. And so nothing's new. We still need to keep learning. And I think we can get there. We've had ups and downs throughout human history, and we're currently in a slight downturn, but we're still way up compared to where we used to be, right?
Yes, I agree. Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think we can get there.
Okay.
Growing
Well,
pains, maybe.
right, on that positive note, I like to end on a positive note because I am in agreement with you. I think we have the capacity to get
I
there.
like to be positive.
Uh,
I try to.
yeah. um, yeah. And even though, again, we're experiencing a difficult time, we're better than we were 50 years ago for sure.
Yeah.
We're just having some pendulum swings of
Yeah.
folks really fighting to keep things the way they have always been, that served them well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
old guard never
so
wants to give up their power, right?
the old guard never wants to give up. But the young people who are competing at the Olympics also give me hope
Yeah.
because they're speaking out, they're using their freedom of speech and letting the world know that they're not comfortable with what they're seeing happen in the
Yeah.
United States. And I think
I think
that's a
that's
really
good.
good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, brother. Thanks again for a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this content, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.